English for gentle minds.
A space for calm clarity and meaningful conversations.
Welcome to Gentle Minds, the space where we dig deep into what shapes our inner lives and how that inner world creates everything we experience out here. I'm John.
I'm Britney, and today we're going there. The M word, manifestation. But not the fluffy think positive and get rich kind. We're cutting through the noise and asking something bigger. What if reality isn't something we chase, but something we're always creating, whether we know it or not?
Right. This episode is all about the idea that manifestation isn't some trick or life hack. It's not something you turn on or off. It's a process that's always happening, often without our permission, because most of it is driven by what's deep in the subconscious.
Which honestly kind of freaks me out. You're telling me even my worst case scenarios, the stuff I overthink at night, that's part of what's shaping my life?
In a sense, yeah. But the good news is, if the mind can unconsciously create fear-based outcomes, it can also consciously create peace, love, and opportunity. And that's where people like Neville Goddard and even Carl Jung come in. They weren't just talking spirituality. They were laying out a blueprint for transformation that starts on the inside.
Okay, hold up. I've heard Neville quotes all over the internet. Live in the end, assume the wish fulfilled. But most of the time, it just sounds like magical thinking. Like if I pretend I already have what I want, then poof, it shows up?
That's part of what we'll unpack today. Because it's more nuanced than that Neville's work. And the deeper psychological roots of it aren't about pretending. They're about planting a new seed in the subconscious mind and allowing that seed to grow. Not controlling everything, just shifting your state.
And I think that's the tension in this episode. A lot of people, including me, have tried to manifest stuff and ended up frustrated. We think, why didn't it work? Like maybe I doubted too much, or I wasn't positive enough, or I said the wrong affirmation. And then, boom, you just feel broken or behind.
Exactly. And that's why today's episode is different. We're not going to tell you to vibe high or repeat things until your throat goes sore. We're going to explore the real mechanics underneath manifestation, how the conscious and subconscious interact, what gets in the way, and how you can actually rewire the internal script that runs your life.
And heads up, we're definitely going to talk about doubt because most of us live with it every day. And it turns out doubt isn't the enemy we think it is. It's more like a protective reflex, a sign that we care, that we're human.
Yeah. This isn't about becoming some robot of blind faith. It's about learning how to work with your mind instead of being run by it. We're diving into real techniques, timeless teachings and stories that show how people have created massive change, not by forcing reality, but by mastering their inner world.
So, if you've ever wondered why your life feels stuck, or why you keep getting results you don't want, or how to finally break out of the loop, this episode is for you. Because today we're asking, what if manifestation isn't about controlling reality, but about becoming conscious of what you're already creating?
Let's get into it. All right. Let's start by zooming out. When people talk about manifesting, they usually imagine it as something they do, like a task. A ritual, a to-do list for the universe. But what if that's actually backwards?
So you're saying it's not something we start doing. It's already happening?
Exactly. Your mind is creating your reality all the time. Not just when you're focused or setting an intention. Even when you're scrolling on autopilot. When you're doubting yourself. When you're rehearsing worst-case scenarios. You're still manifesting. You're always planting seeds in the subconscious. And most of them, you're not even aware of.
That's kind of overwhelming. Like if I'm manifesting all the time and most of it's unconscious, then what's even real? How much control do I actually have?
More than you think. But it starts with awareness. And this is where Carl Jung comes in. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That line sums it up. We think life is happening to us, but really, it's responding through us.
Okay, but what about all the stuff that's happened to me that I didn't want? Like heartbreak, rejection, financial stress. I didn't sit around asking for that.
No, of course not. Nobody does. But we don't always realize what beliefs we've absorbed about ourselves, about love, about worth, about money. Most of that gets programmed early: family, culture, past experiences. Those beliefs sink into the subconscious. And then we live them out.
Like a script running in the background?
Exactly, you might say you want love. But if your subconscious believes it's unsafe or temporary, it'll sabotage that connection every time. Same with money. You can work hard and still repel abundance if your inner world sees success as dangerous or undeserved.
That's deep and honestly kind of frustrating. Because it feels like, cool, now I have to reparent my brain.
That's one way to put it. Yeah. But here's where Neville Goddard takes it a step further. He said, "You are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe. This is the only reason you do not see it." That's not a motivational quote, that's a psychological strategy.
Okay, break that down. What does you are already that which you want to be even mean?
It means that if you want to change your life, you don't start with effort. You start with identity. You assume the end. You step into the feeling of already having what you want, and you live from that place mentally. And over time, your outer world reshapes to reflect it. Because the subconscious doesn't respond to what's true. It responds to what's accepted as true.
So instead of waiting for proof, you give yourself the feeling first. You act as if not to trick the universe, but to rewire your own inner reality.
Exactly. But here's the thing most people miss. This isn't a one-time thing. It's a state of being, a quiet decision you make daily. You can't fake it once and call it done. You live in the end and you persist there. That's how the subconscious begins to shift.
And that's where people get stuck, right? Like they do it for a week and then reality doesn't change fast enough, so they give up. Or they start doubting and then think they messed it all up.
Yep. And that leads to this shame spiral. Like I ruined it. I doubted I wasn't high vibe enough. But that's not how the mind works. Doubt isn't a deal breaker. It's data. And we'll dig into that next.
Okay, I'm already seeing this differently. Like manifestation isn't about tricking the universe, it's about becoming aware of what I've been telling myself all along and deciding to tell a better story.
Exactly. The work isn't in changing the world. It's in changing what you assume to be true. Your inner state becomes the blueprint for your external reality.
All right, so now that we've set the stage, let's get into the part everyone wants to avoid: doubt, fear. All the messy stuff that supposedly blocks your manifestation. Is it really as bad as they say?
Let's find out.
Right, let's just say it. Doubt, it's the thing everybody says ruins your manifestation. You're supposed to believe with unshakable faith. Hold the vision, never question it. And if you slip up, boom. Game over dream. Deleted.
That idea does a lot more harm than good. Because the truth is, doubt is natural. It's human. And most importantly, it's not fatal. In fact, the fear of doubt can be more damaging than doubt itself.
Yeah, I've definitely been in that space where I tried to force myself to believe something, and then felt guilty the second a negative thought came in. Like I messed up the whole process, but trying to control every thought is exhausting.
And unrealistic. No one, not even the most grounded spiritual teacher, lives without doubt. Neville Goddard never said you need perfect belief. What he talked about was persistence. That's the real key. Not blind certainty, but consistent inner assumption.
Okay, but how do we know that doubt doesn't actually block stuff? Like, what if your subconscious is hearing all that fear and just decides, nope, you're not ready?
That's where one of Neville's most famous experiments comes in, the ladder experiment. If you haven't heard of it, this one's wild. He told people for 3 nights, just imagine yourself climbing a ladder. Don't try to believe it. Just picture it. Feel your hands on the rungs. Smell the air. Then during the day, put sticky notes around your house that say, "I will not climb a ladder." Tell yourself out loud, "I refuse to climb a ladder."
Wait, so you're literally imagining one thing, but saying the opposite?
Yep, that's the whole point. Because what happened? A ton of people ended up climbing a ladder within a few days without planning to. Just random situations, needing to get something off a shelf, helping someone move, working on a project. The subconscious had already accepted the imagined scene as real and moved the body into alignment even if the conscious mind resisted.
That's that kind of mind-blowing. So even with conflicting thoughts, the deeper assumption still wins?
Exactly. That's why Neville always said, feeling is the secret. The subconscious doesn't care about words. It listens to repetition, to emotion, to internal consistency over time. One moment of doubt won't cancel out a dominant inner state.
So we can stop panicking every time we think a negative thought. Thank God.
Right? And it also means we don't need to be perfect. What matters is what you return to. The story you tell yourself most often. That's the state that shapes your reality.
Okay, so doubt is normal. But what about those moments where everything feels impossible? Like you're doing the inner work, imagining the end, but life just keeps throwing you curveballs?
That's when you practice one of the harder but most powerful things: inner peace with what is. Not giving up, but releasing the need to control the how. Trusting that even if things don't look like they're working, they are. Because your job isn't to control circumstances. It's to stabilize your inner state.
Easier said than done.
Totally. But there's a freedom in it. Let me give you an example. There's a story, real person, early 20s, who was stuck, dropped out of college. Broke dealing with anxiety. Trying to force success with zero traction, they started practicing Neville's ideas, scripting affirmations, visualization. But here's the key. They stopped obsessing about the outside. They stopped checking for proof. Stopped asking, is it working? And just lived in the end. Imagined already having what they wanted. A remote job, mental peace, physical health. Not every second of the day, but enough.
And what happened?
Within a year, they were running an online business in the best shape of their life. And said the anxiety that used to control them was basically gone. And here's the wild part. They said it didn't feel like a huge transformation. It just felt like alignment. Like the outside finally caught up to what they'd already accepted inside.
That gives me chills, because so often we think change has to feel massive. But sometimes it's just about softening, about making space for a new version of life to land.
Exactly. And when you stop fighting doubt, stop chasing signs, stop over-controlling, the subconscious has room to do its job. And it does. Even if you don't see results instantly.
So it's not about never feeling low. It's about what you keep coming back to.
Yes, your predominant state. That's what matters. You can feel anxious and still manifest peace. You can feel doubt and still manifest belief. You just keep choosing your end gently, persistently, without panic.
Okay, so if I'm hearing this right, we don't need perfect thoughts or perfect belief. We need persistence, emotion, and inner congruence over time.
That's it. It's a practice, not a performance.
All right. So what if we actually want to change the subconscious? Like, not just hold a vision, but reprogram the default setting? Can that be done?
Absolutely. And that's exactly where we're going next, into the techniques that actually rewire the mind from the inside out.
Let's do it. All right, so we've talked about doubt, about faith, about the subconscious as this powerful architect. But here's where it gets real. What about when you're doing all the things? The affirmations, the visualizing, the inner work, and your life still looks the same?
Yeah, this is the moment where most people quit. They think I'm doing everything right and nothing's changing. It's frustrating. It feels unfair. And the temptation is to say, it must not work for me.
I've said that a lot. Like I've had weeks where I'm writing, meditating, visualizing before bed, and then boom, another bill, another rejection, another reminder that nothing's moving. And I start thinking, what's the point?
That's a breaking point and a turning point. Because this is where the subconscious is really being tested. Not in the easy moments, but in the ones that look like proof that it's not working.
But isn't that kind of cruel? Like, believe even when everything screams at you not to?
It's not about pretending nothing's wrong, it's about remembering that reality reflects old assumptions. What you're living today was shaped by the inner states you held weeks or months ago. The lag time is real.
That part right there, that's what no one talks about. We're trained for instant feedback, click scroll results, but manifestation doesn't work like that. It's like planting a seed and then yelling at the dirt when it hasn't sprouted.
Exactly. And here's where a lot of inner conflict shows up. People say, I'm living in the end, but then check their bank account and feel panic. That panic is evidence that the old belief, the fear of lack, is still alive. So the work isn't done.
And then we think we failed. But really, it's just revealing what's still running the show.
Yes, that discomfort isn't failure. It's feedback. It shows you where your internal assumptions still need to shift. You don't need to fight it. Just notice it. Keep choosing the new state.
But what about when something really hits? Like not just a bad day, but something major. A breakup, a job loss, something that feels like total collapse?
That's when the old identity is being challenged. The version of you that was attached to control or fear or even struggle. That version is being asked to let go. And that's not comfortable. It can feel like death. But it's also the start of something new.
God, yeah, I had a relationship end last year that broke me. And I remember sitting in my apartment thinking, I did the work. I visualized, I believed. Why did this fall apart? And I kept hearing, because you're not meant to maintain a version of love that doesn't match your future. And that wrecked me.
That's the core of it. Sometimes reality falls apart so your identity can realign. You lose what doesn't fit even when it looks like loss. That's not failure. That's reorganization.
And the thing is, on the other side of that, I felt different. Stronger, clearer. Like my self-worth wasn't up for debate anymore. And even though I didn't manifest the relationship I wanted, I think I manifested a version of myself who could hold more, who could actually be loved differently.
That's the deeper form of manifestation, becoming the version of you who can receive the life you want because you don't get what you want. You get what you are.
Okay, but I have to say, it isn't that kind of harsh. Like, you get what you are? What about people who are in pain or broke or stuck? That doesn't mean they are pain.
Fair point. Let's clarify that. You're not your pain. You're not your trauma. But if your subconscious has internalized a state of lack or unworthiness or fear, then life keeps echoing that back until the story changes. And that's not a blame game. That's just how the mind works.
So this isn't about shame. It's about sovereignty, about choosing again and again to shift the internal thermostat.
Exactly. And sometimes the most powerful shift isn't external at all. It's when you decide, I am safe now. I am loved. Now, I am whole now. Not because the world gave it to you, but because you claimed it first.
I love that. Because so often we're waiting for money, for validation, for timing, and manifestation says, no, you go first. You become it before you see it.
That's the hard part. And the liberating part. Because the minute you stop outsourcing reality to proof, you're free. You're powerful. You're in alignment.
All right, so let's bring this home. We've unpacked the theory, we've lived the tension. Now, how do we actually reprogram? What do we do practically to shift the script for good?
Let's get into it.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm still letting it land. Because the real takeaway isn't get what you want. It's become who you are. That's the part that hits different.
It shifts the goal. From chasing results to choosing identity. The you that already knows what peace feels like, what love feels like, what ease feels like. That version isn't waiting in the future. It's in you now, just under a few layers.
And the moment you stop arguing with what's possible, the moment you stop needing everything to show up first, that version starts breathing and the world starts reshaping around it.
And it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't have to meditate 6 hours a day or repeat affirmations like a robot. You just need to become familiar with a new feeling. Visit it often. Let it live in you, even for a few minutes a day.
That's what I'm taking with me, that the subconscious doesn't need pressure, it needs consistency. And belief isn't about being sure, it's about showing up anyway. Even when doubt's in the room with you.
That's faith, not absence of fear. Just choosing to persist anyway. Because over time, what's familiar becomes what's real. The mind follows what it knows.
And if you're listening right now and thinking, but nothing's changing, just know that feeling, that's old data. That's not proof that your desire is gone. That's proof that the old reality is fading. It feels shaky because it's losing its grip.
And something new is being born. Quietly in the background. It doesn't look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like peace where there used to be panic. Like a choice you didn't used to have. Like no longer needing to force.
And that's the paradox, right? The more you try to make something happen, the harder it gets. But when you settle into a deeper knowing, when you feel it without needing proof, things just open.
Because reality responds to the most grounded version of you. Not the loudest or the most desperate, but the one who already knows, I am already becoming the life I want.
So if nothing else, we hope this episode reminds you that you're not broken, you're not behind. You're just in a process. And the more you honor that, the more you let the inner work be enough, the more the outside catches up.
You're already manifesting. Always the only question is, what do you want to believe now?
Gentle minds, big shifts. We'll see you next time.